Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sara Gonzalez. I feel like we have two special guests today. One of them is Glenn Beck because he's finally back on the show.
Yes, I'm back on the show.
And then we have Jeremy Dice from First Liberty. Thank you for being here once
Always
again.
good to be back.
And thank you for everything you guys do.
Well, my pleasure. Thanks for having
gosh.
me here and letting me talk about these things and what you guys do to get the word out. It's great.
Glenn, welcome back. What's your top story?
Well, as always, I'm ever changing. I wanted to talk about the debate, and I think we should, but does the debate really matter? I think one of the biggest stories, which could be, I keep looking at this and coming back to it, it could be the biggest story of the year. It could be the biggest story of my lifetime, is happening right now, and it's something we should talk about.
Okay. This is news to me, so it's a surprise to us all. Live television. Stu.
I'm going to go with a truly awful tragedy, but something that is, I think it's teaching the media the completely wrong lesson, and we're going to go into that.
All right, Jeremy.
Well, after that ray of sunshine, we're gonna talk about really good news out of the Supreme Court. We're gonna talk about the Bladensburg Cross. We can call it the Peace Cross now without anybody getting a chance to sue about it all again. This is great news coming out of the Supreme Court. We now have more freedom today than we've had in decades.
Wow.
That is remarkable.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
A lot to get into, obviously. First, we want to thank our sponsor, iTarget Pro. Glenn, I know that you were just gone on your ranch. Did you guys do any shooting when you were there?
Did we do any shooting? Yes, and I will tell you that in between breaks, I don't know if you ever heard me shooting in between breaks. No. I would go outside. We go into one of those long 8-minute breaks at the top of the hour, and I'd go out and I'd shoot. And because I can do it from my front porch, it's the best. And I will tell you, because I think of iTarget Pro, 21 out of 21.
Wow.
I'm getting so good. There was about a, what would you say that is? 6-inch diameter? Okay. Target about that far. I was 45 yards away, I think. Like the guys who work for me who shoot for a living, they couldn't shoot. They couldn't hit it. I was hitting it.
Wow.
And I think it's iTarget Pro.
You're not using a high-capacity magazine there.
Oh, I'm using a giant scope. And
But iTarget Pro, they've got the little laser bullet, and yes, it's called a laser bullet on the package, that you can use to dry fire. So you can do it inside your home, and there's a bonus that you don't actually put holes in your furniture or your walls. So your family will be very appreciative of it. You can go to itargetpro.com, get 10% off right now with free shipping if you use promo code NEWS. That's itargetpro.com. Go there now. Glenn, what are we talking about today?
well, I think we should start. Just talk a little bit about the debate.
Okay.
Because the debate's happening tonight and tomorrow, and I think what people need to watch for is who are the people who are saying Trump is the problem, and we just need to return to normalcy by getting him out. And then the ones who say, no, that's not the problem. Yes, Trump is a problem. We should impeach him. But we need fundamental structural change. We need to change the way the economy works. We don't like the free market system. We want to change the way our system is designed. That's the real choice. And I'm not sure which one the left and Democrats are going to choose. But if they're anything like the Republicans, and hear me carefully, takes some, you take some thinking on this. We chose the burn it all down guy, okay? But when we said burn it all down, what we meant was not the Constitution, not the structure. We want to burn that. So we want to go out and just get rid of all these people and start fresh because it's corrupt. So we chose that guy. Now, if the left is as powerful as it seems to be, not through the media, but it seems like they're everywhere, okay? If they choose the burn it down guy, they mean fundamental change. So forget the free market system. So it'll be interesting to see and watch for those two factions and to see which one is getting the applause lines, which one is really connecting with the American public. Is it the none of this works? I want something completely and radically different? Or is it Donald Trump's a problem and all we need to do is restore sanity? Okay.
From
Now,
their perspective.
From their
obviously.
perspective. From their perspective. Yeah.
Sanity.
Sanity is definitely an air quotes on that one.
And even when I say they don't want to burn it down, I don't trust any of those people because these are the people that are running everything. It's Joe Biden can say whatever he wants, but in the end, Joe Biden is going to be beholden to a Democratic Party that is largely now run through fear and intimidation, the uber left. Okay?
Who is the burn it all down guy when you say the burn it all down guy?
I think that's Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
I think that's Elizabeth Warren. Those people who are just like, look, none of this works.
Yeah, it's that real far, like you've talked about the split for a very long time, and that the sort of progressives versus revolutionaries, right? And then we're kind of seeing that. I mean, Biden is not going to move the country to the right. Right? Joe Biden is going to move the country reliably in a liberal direction in almost everything.
I don't think it's fair to say that we are looking at a progressive era anymore. We are beyond the progressive era. The progressive era brought us to this point. Now it's socialism or freedom.
Yeah, but Biden's old, right? And Biden has been, I'm not saying I think he wants to move the country left, but doesn't want to shock everyone. Yeah.
And he
even
doesn't
if it's
want
just
to,
an approach.
I don't think he wants to destroy the Constitution. You know what I mean? Well,
I don't have as much optimism as you on that.
Okay, so now we're going to do all this work. And we're going to, as American people, we are going to fight it out in the streets and the voting booths. However, the biggest story, I think, possibly of my lifetime is what's happening with Google and Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, all of these companies, which are basically two. What we learned from Project Veritas this week on the manipulation of us, not just our data, us. They are manipulating us. They're already doing it. I just had a guest on my show who said 72 million votes were manipulated, changing voters' positions in all of the different districts around the country in the last election, not 2016, 2018. Yeah, 2018. They are getting good at what they're doing. This is a guy who was for Hillary Clinton. He was the chief editor or whatever for Psychology Today. He's a Harvard guy. He is top of the list on human behavior and behavioral science. And he has shown, and he was just on the show saying, you can't ring the bell loud enough. This is happening, and it is the freedom of thought that is going away. You will be manipulated, and you will have no idea that you are being manipulated. And that's going to play a role, that and deep fakes, in 2020. The world could be changed by a few people behind the curtain pulling the levers in ways that only George Orwell could have foreseen. It's here, and it's here this election.
Stu, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I mean, the manipulation's scary, right? And it's stuff that you wouldn't even know is happening to you. I think there's a problem that this builds off of, which is one we've talked about for a long time, which is people don't necessarily, in the general population, spend enough time thinking about principles or something deeper. They're reactive, right? There's something's happening and they're saying, well, I feel this way about that, or I feel this way about that. And it goes to one of the stats that he brought up, which is from his research, that shows that just changing the results when you search for something, he can change the minds of 90% of undecided voters. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, I mean,
by changing, when you search for something, just by changing the order that they come. Now, think of this, Stu. After I finished talking with him a few minutes ago, I thought, that's exactly what they're doing with recommended videos.
Mm-hmm.
And they're changing the order.
Mm-hmm. And Netflix will tell you that, 80% of the hours watched on Netflix are because of their recommendations. 80%. Now, there's probably great stuff on Netflix that I don't find all the time, but when that one pops up, it kind of seems good. I give it a chance, and then I'm in, right? And this stuff is happening. You search for Donald Trump border, and what pops up is 10 straight articles about how bad Donald Trump is and evil on the border. That is actually moving people. And, there's now, extended evidence. We saw his research back in 2016 showed the actual manipulation going on, pretty much in real time as they looked at what the search results were. And then this Google thing is adding on, or the Project Veritas thing, from what we know of it, is kind of adding on to the intent from Google. So like he had proved that it was already happening. And now it's like, okay, here's the added level of hidden documents where they're saying like people like Ben Shapiro are turning people to white supremacists. And it's like, well, that like Dave Rubin is turning people into white supremacists. Like these are insane positions that no normal, rational human being who looks at Ben and Dave could think that.
Already there, and in an 18-month period of time is an eternity in the tech world now. An eternity, and we are getting close to the point to where we are about to enter a different kind, but a matrix. And people say, oh, they're not doing that because they're wrapped up in politics. Listen to Bezos. What is he saying about Amazon? He's going to know you so well, he'll be able to ship things to you without even ordering it because he knows you want it. Well, do I want it? Am I being pushed down this road? If you go things like airfare, most people don't know this. You go online, you go look for airfare, okay? You just want to check it. The second time you go, do not use that ISP, because the second time you go, check it. The price has gone up. Why? Because the algorithm recognizes your ISP and says, oh, they want this. And so the second time you go and check, it's higher.
You mean your IP address, right? I think.
Yeah, your IP address.
Yeah. Right, because they know you're already interested, so they
know you're going to buy.
How soon are we those guys floating around on the ship deck in Wally?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we're almost there.
Did you see the video or the pictures of somebody did what humans will look like in 100 years? Did you see that?
No.
Oh, it's frightening.
That's the sad part. It's actually just us, like that shape, and
it's amazing.
Yeah, right.
It's amazing how they are predicting that we're going to physically change if technology continues to go down this road. Kids are already starting to grow. They're calling it a horn, but it's not. They're starting to grow. You haven't seen this?
No.
I don't think it's.
What?
Yeah. That's not real. Well,
bring it up tomorrow.
We'll disprove that in another segment.
We will disagree on this tomorrow, and I'll bring in the pictures of what they're saying that humans will look like.
Oh.
And then we'll go over the actual research afterwards.
All right, let's take it.
You could manipulate it into Glenn's viewpoint or mine. Right. 90% of undecided voters.
That's a great point. All right, more to come when we come back.
You disagree with the
there's
X-rays?
There's like zilch evidence that this is actually caused by devices, which is what they're trying to do.
All right, before we get back into it, want to thank our sponsor, Cruise Through History. Glenn, I think my invitation got lost in the mail to this cruise.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you get yours?
I got mine.
Well, I asked you to mail theirs.
Oh, I did. No,
okay.
I threw them away.
It's too late now. Anyway, not too late for you to come. We're going to the Mediterranean. We're going to be in Venice. We're going to be in Dubrovnik. We will be in Athens and Israel. This is so much of what's at least on my family's bucket list. And we're going to be talking about the history of how these places actually influenced us, what we got from them, what we took and learned from those places, and created this special idea of all men are created equal in the free market system. It's happening next spring. It's all inclusive. You don't have to bring a wallet. There's not a tip, not anything. You don't have to pay for anything. It's all inclusive, even the airfare to get over to Italy in spring. So join us. Just go to comesailaway.com. That's comesailaway.com.
I'm into the no tipping thing. I get tired of the tips.
Oh, yeah.
Especially
Tip for everything these days.
Awkward.
Yeah.
All right. You never know.
I never know what to do.
No, and then during the holidays, you have to tip everyone, right? Like you got to tip your housekeepers and your
your housekeepers.
Yeah.
And your drivers.
Yeah.
And your chef.
First world problems. Golly, what a drag.
Yes. Okay. So let me start this with this. This is a rough segment, but I think it's really important, and we do need to talk about it. If you have kids, you might want to direct their attention away if you happen to be watching on TV. There's a picture out. It's been, it's in the area of some of the more famous tragic photos you'll probably ever see. You think back to Vietnam, Syria, even 9/11, there's some of these. This is a photo of an illegal immigrant who was trying to cross the border and drown with his daughter sort of in tow. It is crushing to watch, especially if you have small kids.
Yes.
It is really rough. And a lot of times there's a conversation about policy and stuff that's sort of separate from, these are real tragedies. And, whether they're doing the right thing or not crossing the border is a completely different situation. All that being said, and I know everyone in the audience understands that, the media is seeing this, and this is what they do with emotion, right? Like the same thing, you see this with the Second Amendment a lot. They'll use these terrible photos to try to prove a political point. And what's interesting here is that the media seems to be learning the exact wrong lesson, which is not a surprise, I suppose. What they're essentially saying is, look, this heartless border policy by people like Donald Trump is causing immigrants to die as they try to swim across the river. The situation here, and again, really rough, is there's a couple different versions. The Times and ABC sort of have different versions of exactly what happened, but they were supposed to come across the border, across a bridge. The bridge was closed. They decided instead to, the dad and the child decided to swim across the water. It looked like it was pretty tame. They got across the water. The dad was going to come back and help the mom. When he got about halfway over, the kid didn't really understand what was going on. My dad's leaving me, tried to go chase him into the water, and then things got out of control. You see in the picture that the dad has actually put the child inside of his shirt to try to, keep them together. And it is awful. So, but is that the lesson that you should take, that, the border policy is bad? The lesson we should take from this, number one, is please don't come.
Yes.
Please don't take your kid across the border. It is not worth it. It's not a good idea. This is not what you should be doing. And that is something that we should all stand on, is stop coming. I understand that it seems like a good idea at some point, but you really need to stop this. The other thing, too, is Donald Trump's, I think, and Republicans in general, position on asylum is really highlighted here. One of the things that we've been saying for a long time is that people are coming and abusing the asylum system. They're just coming because they want the economic benefits, and they're claiming asylum because they know they'll be treated better and have a better chance of being able to stay. And when you read the New York Times story, it actually does tell you this. Here's some of the quotes. The young family arrived last weekend in the border city in Mexico, hoping to apply for asylum in the United States. Now, that's supposed to be running from a corrupt government, legitimate threat of violence, etc. What they say here is some are fleeing gangs that cripple the region and kill wantonly. Others are seeking an economic lifetime. Such was the case with Mr. Martinez and his wife, and goes on to say, though Alta Vista, which is the complex they lived in, is under the control of gangs, the couple was not fleeing from violence. Rosa Ramirez, Mr. Martinez's mother, told him, rather, the grind of surviving as a family on $10 a day had become unmanageable. He actually was working at a Papa John's in Mexico. So, this is not a story that backs up the sort of left-wing take on the border. It is actually a story that, sadly, sort of does the opposite. It's not a good thing. You don't want to have to talk about politics in a situation like this, but no one will learn the lesson that I will say, Barack Obama very clearly told Mexico back when he was president. People say that Donald Trump is so hateful for the things he's saying. Listen to Barack Obama in 2014 talk about the border.
The problem is that under current law, once those kids come across the border, there's a system in which we're supposed to process them, take care of them, until we can send them back.
So is your message don't come?
Oh, our message absolutely is don't send your children unaccompanied on trains or through a bunch of smugglers. That is our direct message to the families in Central America. Do not send your children to the borders. If they do make it, they'll get sent back. More importantly, they may not make it.
I mean, that is, you never hear a Democrat say something like that now. It shows how fast we've moved. He's right on that. He deserves credit for saying it at the time, and it should be something that's reinforced now. We really just need people to stop coming, because this is not a good outcome for the United States, and it's certainly not a good outcome for these families.
Nobody wins.
Yeah. Jeremy, I want to move on to your little ray of sunshine after that.
I know, it was rough.
Thanks a lot, bud. that was painful. Yeah, no, look, this is really good news, though. We've talked about this before. This is the Bladensburg World War I Veterans Memorial. We can call it the Peace Cross because that's what the locals call it. It was erected in 1925 by the American Legion. In 1919, some mothers got together to honor their sons who died in World War I to have this thing put together. They decided to choose the design from the gravestones that mark their sons' graves in Europe, not knowing that they would ever see their sons' graves. So that's what happened. And by 1925, this is erected. It stood there for, what is it now, 93 years, 94 years that it's been standing there without a problem until about 6 years ago when someone finally became offended by its presence. It stands in the median of a highway, and they filed a lawsuit. It was the American Humanist Association files a lawsuit against the state of Maryland. We intervene on behalf of the American Legion. We win, we lose at the Fourth Circuit, go to the Supreme Court of the United States, and just last week, the Supreme Court of the United States said that monument, that memorial, like all other memorials like it that have religiously expressive symbols or designs or words, those are now, in the words of Justice Alito, presumptively constitutional. That's an incredible transition from where we had been before.
Tell me the meaning of those two words.
Well, presumptively constitutional means that we're going to look at all these monuments, memorials that are like it. And in fact, the court said not just monuments and memorials, but practices like this. So think about prayers before public meetings, the words "In God We Trust" on the side of buildings or on our money. Go on down the list. Nativity scenes, maybe that's put in there as well. Things that have been going on that are a part of our country since its founding, that express religion in the public square. They're going to say those things are now, we assume that they're constitutional. Now you have to prove that they're actually unconstitutional. That's extremely important because what was happening before was that someone, I'm offended, tear it down. Not only is I'm offended, okay, you have the right to file a lawsuit. Well, it's the only area in the law that we would give someone that was just merely offended and was not actually injured by the whole thing or had a harm done to them to bring standing for a lawsuit. Justice Gorsuch dismisses that in his concurring opinion in just a wonderful way. And so now we have these things that are now presumptively constitutional. The test that was used before, called the Lemon test, gone. It is completely dead within the world.
What was the Lemon test?
It's a very complex subjective test that has about 3 to 16 parts, depending upon how you unpack it and which court applies it, if they're going to apply it. Justice Kavanaugh went at length in his concurring opinion to go through the 5 different categories where it has been applied to show how it isn't being applied in the lower courts, and ending each time by saying, so Lemon is not good law, and it should be disbanded entirely. Now we have 7 justices saying, yeah, we're going to go with this presumptively constitutional thing for now. 6 of them say Lemon is dead in almost every context. One would say I'd take it by a case-by-case basis and still maintain some history on it. And thank goodness for Justice Thomas. He says, well, look, if it's dead here, it should be dead everywhere. But if it's dead mainly in the context of memorials where it's usually used to try to knock them down, that's the best thing that could happen. Look, I think our founding fathers would have been appalled, or would be appalled, if they knew that the Establishment Clause had been weaponized to tear down these memorials. And that is no longer the case now. And the Supreme Court has specifically said in their opinion, not happening, right? They said that if we're going to have to go through and knock down these memorials, or they even went through the list of the cities in California that have different religiously sounding names to them, right? San Diego, Saint Diego, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Santa Fe. I mean, the Holy Faith is what Santa Fe means, Corpus Christi. If those are going to have to be scrubbed off the sides of our buildings, or if more monuments are going to be knocked down, what the court said is that sends a signal, a message by the government of hostility towards religion, and that is not what the First Amendment stands for. It is designed to protect that very thing. And so now they're saying, welcome to the public square, all religious symbols, language, activities. This is a huge decision that will be talked about for 50 years or more to come. Knocking down the Lemon test 50 years ago now, I think, as I said before, we have more freedom today than we've had in decades. And frankly, I'm not sure that we know what to do with it in some respects. Because now we have these memorials that are out there. They're not going to be knocked down. Stars of David, crosses, whatever they might be. The bulldozers have been parked. They're safe. They're secure. The memory of our veterans are going to be good. I've got so many stories and things I'd love to tell about it all, but maybe I should just stop there and talk more about it with you guys.
Well, we do have to take a break, but a huge win for religious liberty. That's awesome. We'll be back.
Glad we ended on your story.
I know. Jeremy, I know you guys are doing great work over at First Liberty to defend religious freedom. Tell everyone where they can find you guys if they want to get more involved and find out more.
Go to firstliberty.org. That's the best place to start. We're also on Twitter at 1STLiberty and all the other places too, but firstliberty.org is the best place to find out about us.
All right, and we will see you guys in overtime. It starts next.